Hi, and welcome to the fifth episode of Our Connected Future. I'm your host, Max Peacock, and in this episode, I'm joined by Sojung Bahng. Sojung is an award-winning artist, filmmaker, and researcher. She is also a research fellow at Carleton University and is an instructor for the Bachelor of Media Production and Design program. In our conversation, Sojung and I discussed the affordances and constraints of virtual reality as a storytelling platform and how these qualities make the medium so unique. In this episode, Sojung also shares her thoughts on the metaverse and her hopes for the future of extended reality technologies. If this sounds interesting to you, make sure to stay tuned. This podcast series is a part of a larger overarching project called the BMPD Storytellers project, which includes a growing variety of works from other students in the program. To check out the works of other BMPD storytellers, you can visit our website and socials, which are linked down below. This is your host, Max Peacock, and you're listening to episode 5 of Our Connected Future featuring Sojung Bahng. Thanks for tuning in, and as always, enjoy. Okay, well, Sojung, thank you for being here today. I'm really looking forward to the opportunity to chat with you and learn more about the work that you're doing.
Thanks for inviting me. Hi,
Yeah, no problem. I was hoping we could start with how you actually got interested in digital storytelling and how this interest has brought you to where you are today in your life. You've studied at various institutes across the world, including Monash University's CCP Lab and Korea's Advanced Institute of Science and Technology. Could you tell us more about how you first discovered your passion for this work and the journey of how it brought you to where you are today?
All right. I first started sort of exploring storytelling in my bachelor's program as KR, Korean National University of Arts. So I study film and television productions and as well as art theory. So basically my background is cinematics. So I explore a lot of different types of narrative, including fiction and non-fictions, but I became more interested in exploring new media components because rather than just traditional conventional cinema, I'm interested in exploring more interactive, immersive, generative components because it brings new kind of experience. So that's why I started to investigate it. It's more like VR and AR, all different types of like expanded cinema work. So that's how I'm here right now.
That's super cool. And what was your experience like visiting these different institutes to study across the world? Like, what was that like, and how did that fit into your journey?
Well, I mean, I'm not really sure about like just exploring different institution or sort of different countries. So I rather felt quite unique about like sort of introversing different types of like disciplines. As you can see, I study film and TV production, art theory. After that, I went to sort of like scientific and engineering schools. So those are very multidisciplinary programs. So people from like scientific and engineering background and also artistic or design background, they are like come together and study like culture technology and art technology, which was very challenging, but also it brought my perceptions, and their language is very, very different. The way of thought, way of thinkings are all different, which was quite interesting. And I actually went to the sort of information technology sort of faculty for my PhD. But the reason why I went to sort of IT faculty, there is another reasons that because I wanted to work with my supervisor, so which is like he inspired my master project, but also due to the funding, because like in arts it's hard to find the funding, but in engineer or like technical department there are a lot of fundings comparing to the art, which is one of the main reason I chose that journey. But because of the lot of like infrastructure, a lot of technical support, I could create ironically I could create a more artwork due to the support of the old infrastructure and funding things. So it was very interesting experience I had, because sometime when I just stay in an artistic discipline or department, sometimes I'm just, because I'm inside of there, I don't really feel stimulated or inspired by others because I'm so immune that. But if I just, but when I was in the like very scientific engineering sort of discipline, like I didn't really expect that I could create that much of artwork, but because of technical support, and also like I'm just so eager to create artwork because there's no sort of like artistic surrounding, so it makes me kind of, it pushed me to sort of create the artwork and artistic outcomes. So like, life is just, we never really know, so just going so many way and explore things, and I'm here. But I'm not really sure what I what I told you, but like it was an unprepared answer, but that's how I am. Yeah.
I think that's a great answer. I got the time to look at the Sensi Lab's website, and that looks like such an amazing environment. It seems like a very collaborative environment. I'm wondering, did that culture of kind of collaboration contribute to the work that you produced when you were researching there? What was that experience like?
Yeah, definitely. And the director of Sensi Lab, John McCormick, he's a very well-known like media artist. Sort of like he kind of, he's a very famous in using artificial intelligence for creating artwork. So he's very representative media artist, and also he's computer scientist. And also he has a background in film as well, so he has a like different kind of component of technology and narrative and media art, sort of media aesthetic, those kind of things. So because of his background and his experience, he could actually bring people like from multiple sides, and he can integrate it. So I think the culture of the Sensor Lab has been shaped by John, which is I really appreciated for his contributions for like producing a new kind of knowledge, a new kind of experience. But also they created the Sensor Lab created a practice-based research program. You may hear like you may know the concept of research creation, right? So research creation is kind of Canadian notion of arts-based or practice-based research. So practice-based research is about doing the research through the practice, but in information technology field, the practice-based research has not been recognized yet, but they developed that program and also invited a lot of different artists. So which also brings me there to interact with many different scholar, researcher, and artists, but also produce artistic outcomes as well as research contribution, like research papers. So which is very collaborative, but also research oriented, but produce creative outcomes. So which was very exciting, well-balanced environment.
That sounds like an amazing environment to be a part of.
Yeah.
In the media production and design program, we learn about many different kinds of digital storytelling mediums, including augmented and virtual reality. I'm curious to know from your perspective, what is it about virtual reality that has drawn you to it as a medium for exploring the human condition? Why virtual reality for you?
The reason why I explored the virtual reality, interestingly, I chose virtual reality because of I'm interested in the limitation of immersive engagement. You may know the like project called Hunger in LA. So those are that is our immersive journalism pieces by Noni Del Athenia. So which is the artwork or journalistic piece sort of created by 3D real-time simulations using a VR technology. So basically, the work mimic the people waiting for food in the LA because of they don't have the money to pay for food, whatever, and they were waiting for the food, and one person couldn't receive the food on time, so like try to shake his body because of maybe there's some physical or health issue around him, and the viewer embodied someone's perspective around him in their line of some things, whatever. And so the really impactful video I saw it, someone tried to help me, the viewer, wearing a headset because I'm a part of the group. So I could help him because I have an illusion of I can help him, right? But because of we are in the VR, so like someone's trying to help him, but it is not possible because this is virtual reality. But there is illusion of I can help him, but I can't. So there is a lot of frustration and tensions comes up. So I can see that those kind of immersive limitation of immersive engagement, I can't really help, actually bring a lot of questionings of the limitation of the society. So people can take up the headset and realize that I can't really help. I can fix something in the virtual reality, but to bring that inquiry, bring that questioning into the real world can help people. So a lot of video game, a lot of media, so there's a hero and always fix something easily. But in VR, because it's so immersive, we have the illusion of we can do something. We can be here, we can be anything, but actually we can't. We can't really, because of there is a lot of limitation. If we can use those kind of limitations, I think we can use those tensions to prompt a lot of questionings of the limitation of the things or restriction of the things. I can see that could be very interesting ways to tell the story about the social issue. That was the main reason I started exploring that. So it's kind of irony. I was interested in of limitation of immersion.
I think that's so interesting that you were drawn to the limitations of it, because I think so often when we think about virtual reality, we look at it as the medium that's limitless and we can put ourselves in any environment and embody whoever we want to be. But like you point out, because of the technological constraints of the medium, that's really not actually the case. There was a quote that I found really interesting from the abstract of your dissertation, where you write, "Many artists and filmmakers embrace VR as a creative medium and are attracted to the ways that cinematic VR can elicit emotional engagement and empathic identification. However, this carries a potential risk of uncritical acceptance or witnessing of another's pain without self-critical awareness." Could you tell us more about that? Because I was totally fascinated by that.
Well, you may know the notion of empathy machines. The empathy machine is the concept is brought from the American artist entrepreneur Chris Milk. So at TED Talk in 2015, he talked about the benefits and potential of VR that can elicit empathic engagement, empathic identification. I agree with some points, but after his talks, many institutions and industry start to, calling VR as empathy machines and a lot of booming and become the buzzword. So there is simplifications of that. You can see that that's high levels of presence or immersivity can be directly related to the empathic engagement or empathy. But as you can imagine, the zombie shooting game or VR porno, just embodying another person's perspective or just being in there is not directly related to the quality of understanding others. So my questioning came from that. But also there has been many types of critical discourses and debates around on critical acceptance or blind immersions since modern arts or theatrical experimentations, including Brecht distancing effect or avant-garde filmmaking technique. There has been a lot, but I can see those kind of experimentations has not been explored enough in VR, because as you can see, VR is fundamentally immersive. So sort of exploring reflexivity or trying to use sort of estrangement effects may break the emergence of the VR, which is very contradictory. But I believe that VR can be fundamentally reflexive because of the gaps between virtual reality and physical reality. Although VR technology have been developed rapidly, there are obvious gaps between virtual reality and physical reality. We are exist in that physical and virtual space simultaneously. So there are always gaps. So we can use those gaps to let the viewer fill in the gaps and let them think about their virtual perception and physical sort of sensations. I think those can be used as a reflexive element and reflexive storytelling techniques, something I felt. And if I add one more thing, the danger of immersion in VR could be even more dangerous than other cinematic or traditional 2D based cinema because we embody another's perspective. But let's say if you embody another's perspective who is very violent or unethical, we can simply take that perspective, or we can simply avoid it, the responsibilities of that perspective. Oh, this is just virtual reality. I'm taking that perspective, another one. So this is not mine. But actually the perspective is blended. So that can be my perspective, that can be the virtual person's perspective. We never really know. So if we are not aware of enough, we can simply take it, or we can simply just avoid the responsibility of us. So which is very dangerous, something I'm thinking of it. So without any critical awareness or reflexivity, that those kind of like perception issue could be intensified in VR. So that's why the VR porno and VR zombie game has been also become the issues in the VR industry, I guess.
I see. Okay. Do you think that these limitations will break down, like these gaps that we have between the user and the actual VR experience? Do you think these gaps will close and break down as VR gets more immersive? And will that change VR as a storytelling medium? Or do you see those gaps as really important in VR's in VR as a tool for reflexive storytelling? Like, what do you think will happen as we close those gaps, as we advance technologically?
So I can imagine the technical limitations. We can overcome a lot of technical constraints for sure, but fundamentally, but still, we are gonna be in the physical world. So it's not gonna be changed. So there is a fundamental like characteristics of duality of presence, duality of embodiment. We are here and there at the same times. So there are obvious gaps. So we can use those gaps to prompt reflexivity, or kind of use those conflict to let people think about it. So I think this is more fundamentals.
Okay, yeah. So like the problems are more rooted in the fundamental nature of the technology. And a lot of those gaps just won't be closed. I think the duality of embodiment is a really interesting concept. I think these days we're hearing a lot about the metaverse and the future of the metaverse. And there's obviously a lot of hype and excitement about that. And it's often really vague what we mean exactly by metaverse, but we almost talk about it as it's this other world that we're stepping into, but fundamentally we're still grounded here in the physical world. What do you make of the metaverse and all the talk that's happening about it right now?
Well, I'm aware that the term metaverse was first used in the 1992 science fiction novel Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson. And it refers to the virtual world that allows people to interact with each other through their avatars. But I think that this is not a new concept. And it is really interesting for me to see that a lot of people recently became so interested in this concept, and metaverse became the kind of the buzzword. I see that many people use the metaverse very differently. So firstly, I see many people use metaverse to refer to the philosophical inquiries of a lot of like sort of mixed reality things, mixture of physicals and virtual reality like matrix or simulacrum, like virtual. So this is virtual, like what is the reality, all that kind of like philosophical questionings. And some others use metaverse to refer the all kinds of virtualizations due to the development of digital technology, even including digital currencies such as NFT or blockchain or something, right? But the
Hmm.
most common use of the metaverse must be related to Facebook, which is more like the extended concept of social VR. So there
Hmm.
have been numerous research around co-presence, telepresence, and social presence in virtual reality in the human-computer interaction (HCI) area. So I won't explain all the academic concepts in details, but they're all related to the concept of interacting with others in VR. So those are not new, but I can see because of the impacted by COVID-19 pandemic and the rapid development of VR technology such as Oculus, so many people want more realistic social interactions online in VR as well. So, and it became possible to technically implement that sort of like social interaction in VR and AR. So I think that's why metaverse has been getting attention, like a sort of new trendy concept, but this is not really new for me.
Hmm.
But my research around VR is not particularly related to social interaction. So I use VR as a storytelling medium and cinematic tool. So I'm not sure if I'm the right person to talk about metaverse, if metaverse refers to the social interaction kind of things in VR. But philosophically, there has been always blurred boundary between virtual and physical reality. Like I said, I talk about the gaps, but also the gaps are blurred, right? Because even we are existed virtual and physical reality simultaneously, still that physical like interaction, my physical presence affect to the virtual presence and virtual presence to also affect to my physical presence, so which are very blurred. So I can see the phenomenon of virtualization and digitalization such as metaverse just shows or reveal the boundaries. I think that's it. But the development of or the rapid sort of increasing attention of the metaverse is more about industrial requirement, industrial interests, I guess, or or people's interests or needs because of the pandemic situation.
Okay. Super interesting. Looking at virtual reality as a storytelling medium and not so much of a social tool, the way that Facebook or Meta might be taking it. Are you optimistic about the future of virtual reality as a storytelling medium? What do you think the next 10 years maybe of VR as a storytelling tool could look like? What big changes do you think we might see in the near future?
Mm. Well, firstly, I don't want to simplify virtual reality as a single medium. For example, like 360-degree video, films by 360-degree camera, or real-time 3D VR in a stationary setting, and navigable room-scale VR using embodied interface are all different. So depending on the level of immersion and interactivity, sort of the affordance of VR will be also very different. And the potential value of using VR storytelling will be very varied. So firstly, I don't want to see the VR as a single medium. So which is just everyone's use VR differently, and VR has a very different types of media specificity, media traits. So that's the one thing I want to say. So there's no simplification. I can't tell the future of VR storytelling because like this is all about different levels of immersion, different levels of interactivity. This is my first answer. And the second answer, which is that my hope or the value of VR storytelling or even XR, like AR or VR, whatever, it brings viewers to explore things. So I'm not really interested in the VR storytelling replicating the experience or perception we can have in the real world. I'm more interested in the VR storytelling or XR storytelling that allow or to bring viewer to explore different types of sensation, different types of perceptions or thoughts in different words. So which will be the potential or the value of VR storytelling. Yeah.
And my last question for you today, Sojung, is what advice do you think you would give to a young storyteller who's just starting to explore different digital forms of media? What advice would you give to somebody just getting started in this area of research?
First, I want to emphasize, don't simplify things. For example, depending on what kind of media you want to use and how you want to use and what kind of purpose you have, it's going to be all different. But if you see a lot of article or if you see some sort of like non-academic, just a lot of, I don't want to say that, but like fake news or yeah, like a lot of information around the media. There are a lot of types of simplifications. But because of that, people think, I'm doing I have to use AR for this kind of purposes. I have to use the VR for these kind of things. So they try to fit their creativity or their perception into the specific characteristic or trends of the medium, but this is not right, or this is not a good way to approach. Because if you think about the films, or if you think about the video production nowadays, look, there are so many types of people are using the video and making so many different things, right? Vlog, documentary films, or like fiction, non-fictions, YouTube. There are so many, but we don't really talk about how we can use the video for blah, 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 right? But
Right.
because of the immersive technology or different type of technology is very new, so we try to find the language. We try to sort of generalize the things for finding new syntax or new grammar for things, which is great. But you don't really need to or like restrain your creativity to fit into that grammars of storytelling that even not developed yet. So focus on your creativity first, or focus on what you really want to investigate or what you really want to explore, and try to find a way to explore your thoughts or experience using that medium. I think that's the most important things. And you can find a way you can use those kind of tools differently, because you can see like everything is just like a tool, but everyone use a tool very different way. But we have to understand the characteristic of the tool, that's the media. That's very important. But that is just the tools. We also have to think about it. But I can see a lot of people think about the medium first and try to fit their thoughts into the media. I saw a lot of students trying to do it. So that is kind of trick. So I recommend to explore your creativity or your own way of expression first, and try to translate your language into the media, or try to support your language using that digital technologies.
I think that's incredibly insightful. Well, Sojung, thanks so much for taking the time to have this conversation and sharing your knowledge. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for tuning in to the 5th episode of our Connected Future. For updates on this podcast and the other BMPD storytelling projects, please visit our website and social links down below. This is your host, Max Peacock, signing off, and you'll hear from me again in the next episode. Cheers.